everybody. Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So yeah, just coming down off of the whole Hurricane Beryl thing hitting southeast Texas, including Velocito, where we are located. Yes, we got slammed by the ugly side of that storm. So, shop has electricity. The homestead, however, does not. So, no fun there. But at any rate, I figured I would touch base with you guys, see how everything is going in your world. Today's the day that somebody decided they were going to try to shoot President Trump. That wasn't too cool. So hopefully you're having a better day than that. But really, don't really want to make the show political. But man, when they're trying to kill you, that's when you know you're doing something right, I guess. Especially if somebody else is doing something so wrong. So with that being thrown out there and now out of the way, anything coming cool from Mopar? So here's the thing. I know that there's been the whole visual is out there with the new car. That's great. But one of the things that is bothering me a lot about the new car so far is that we are not seeing any real marketing behind through, if you will. And what that means specifically, draw through, what am I going on about? Draw through in this case is you need to pull people in the door right now. You got to pull people in the establishment. You've got buyers that have left the establishment at this stage. And a lot of them aren't coming back to Dodge. And they're not coming back to Dodge because they've been, what's the best way I can put this? Shunned. But they've been let down. And they've been let down in a very odd, very strange, very weird way. And it's a way that you can only let a Mopar guy down. I've said over and over again how awesome it is that it would be if they brought back some Cold War kid heavy artillery. We're talking, Eagle Talon, Starion, the list goes on, right? The DSM cars, which is Diamond Star Motors. That was the partnership of Chrysler and with Mitsubishi. And you had some pretty killer little hot rods come out of the mix. And the fact that, here's the thing though, you cannot combine the two. This ain't chocolate and peanut butter, okay? It doesn't work like that for the car guy's mind. In the car guy's mind, if I look at a modern interpretation of a Starion, which you guys know is like one of my favorite cars ever. If you look at that car, or look at a Stealth, or maybe a 300ZX, let's move away from that. Let's look at some other vehicles that were out in that period of time. But specifically to Dodge, when you look at where Dodge was then with the Diamond Star cars, you knew what you were getting. You knew that this was an advanced engine technology. It was turbos. It was a lot of really cool, multi-valves, and it had all this, the sound was different, the feel was different, the size of the car was different. Everything was completely different. And that was what made them so cool. Eagle Talons, either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, were kicking all kinds of ass on the street. Starions were very difficult to deal with once you started playing with the boost, and they could handle quite a bit of abuse. The Stealth VR4 was, an icon of its era, and how that thing never got any more love in pub, I still don't know. But none of those vehicles that I've just mentioned had anything to do with the V8. They were all four-cylinder or V6 turbo vehicles. And one of the things that Dodge is trying to do with the new car is they're trying to mix old V8 looks with inline six turbo power plants. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't look right. Okay, it would be like if Metallica started playing like really sad, twangy country music. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with heavy metal Metallica, and there's nothing inherently wrong about really twangy country music, although they're both really overly commercialized and there's far better bands out there. However, you see the point that I'm making. social distortion's best. Anyway, but when you start to, if you take something that's already kind of cringy because it's a simulacra, simulation type thing, and you try to feed it something and put something into it that it is just not genuinely it's not genuinely its own. It's forced. And the problem that I see is that there's just not enough. It's just, it's weird. Yeah, I'm not even talking about the EV portion of this, guys. I'm talking specifically about that new Charger, which takes a lot of styling cues from the 68, 69, 70 Charger, the sloping back. And well, then it seems like it incorporated the previous generation Charger's taillights, which is kind of weird going backwards that way. And then some odd front end treatment that also doesn't seem to go well. It's got the front end of a car that could be well on its way to being kind of a muscly 6-cylinder-y TVR-y, maybe like the old TVR type of a look, right? But you got the ass of a 68, 69, 70-ish Charger. It's like it's like the doctor from the genetic scientist from South Park, the one that puts asses on everything. That's what it looks like to me. It's like that dude got a hold of a couple of cars and he goes, well, I like the look of this ass. I'm just going to put it on this car. And it just doesn't, I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm just saying that there's nothing about it aesthetically that I find pleasing whatsoever. And I don't understand the mentality of that. It really is. Again, it's designed by committee by people that think they know what car guy wants, or because they're not that. They're not into this lifestyle. They're not into motoring lifestyle. I'm not even talking about car guys. These are folks that aren't into motorcycles, boats, aircraft, anything. They have no mechanical coolness about them. Like they don't get it, right? So anyway, that's one of the things that I'm finding to be really odd about that look. So you take that and you multiply it by the fact that there is no V8, although Ford seems to be doing great with the Coyote. Why is that? Why did we not get that 5.2 or 5.5 liter dual overhead cam Mopar Coyote equivalent? Now, make it 10% larger. Make it make about 10% more power across the board. Make it handle boost. Make it variable cam, infinite profile, just the way that the Coyote is. Do all that and you got yourself a winner. And I'm reminded how good the Coyote can be every time I drive my F-150. Keep in mind, I tuned that truck myself, not for outright power, but really for more drivability. But I obviously was picking up some power here and there, I guess, along the way, but not very much. The main thing I want to emphasize, though, here is that that truck continuously at highway hauling ass down the road speeds will cover, high 17s, low 19s without really putting a lot of effort into it. If I slow it down a little bit and actually try to go for numbers, I can get deep into the 20s with that truck, no problem. That's not something the i6 can do in the trucks, and I don't know what it's going to do in the cars. I don't want to get too far off topic and start talking about truck stuff, mainly talking about the difference, but like why I just don't understand the new Charger, but I really don't understand it from the point of view of it would have been so much easier, it seems, to have the V8. Now, I understand the global motor thing and displacement and taxing in other countries and stuff like that, but guys, I got to be honest with you. I don't live there. I live in the United States of America, and here V8s are kind of a thing. It doesn't matter how much more power the 6 makes with a turbo. The V8 is just a blower away from making more power than that. And that's the aftermarket. That's their job. And so for me, a small ish, like, again, 5.5 liter V8 that made, again, 10% more than a Coyote, both torque and horsepower, however you figured it out, would have been phenomenal. And you get the opportunity to give people the advantage of choice, which is what Ford does. And it's a really good place to be. And so I think that's really why so many more folks had decided that, maybe this new truck isn't for them. And maybe this new power plant isn't for them, because maybe they've driven the truck with the power plant. They decided that it wasn't all that. I can tell you that in an all-wheel drive variant, the HO car is going to be fast. Period. End of discussion. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's going to really get after it. But I don't think that a lot of buyers are going to really flock to these vehicles because, again, and some will, don't get me wrong, but it's just too old-fashioned looking from certain points of view. I feel like it's neat that they're putting that 6-cylinder in the car. I think a lot of people will be turned off by that. I think that a lot of folks don't really get the car yet. They're still trying to wrap their heads around the front end versus the rear end treatment. There's a lot of things that car kind of does well, I will admit, but in terms of styling, but getting my attention is certainly not one of them. Now, let me check in with you guys real quick, and I will dive back into my yammering. Hard Rock is in. What's up, Skids? I got the ball guy with the shades and the flex and the cadence down. I like it. Itch is in. Good day. Marco is in. Good to see you guys. Sovereign is in. Sovereign saying Trunk is going to be okay. Trump is okay. All they did is pierce his ear. That's it. Now he's just going to look cool. Cam's Cat saying, what's happened, Professor? Finally getting to catch a live again. Very cool. Glad to have you. Oh yeah, the gunman was taken out. Yep, he is going to be all right. He's liking the 68 Charger. 68's my favorite. Doors are missing the indentations, and that's a weird thing. So that car doesn't look right with the rear three-quarter look. It doesn't look right without some kind of stylized door there. It's just kind of slab-sided. And I don't know if I'm fully there yet. There's nothing to differentiate it. Like, even if it didn't have the scallops, it could have been like, a little bit of a reverse, or a little bit of an hourglass type shape, or something could have gone in there just to break up the lines. It's just, you can't have a swoopy look with flat-sided doors like that. It just kind of looks weird. Sorry, saying they lack the muscle machismo. They kind of do. I was hoping that the plain look of the car, though, would give it kind of like a 64 Polara type of a vibe, kind of a 60, not really a 66 Charger, but you kind of get what I'm saying here. Like a little bit of a mid-century vibe with the flat sides, but it just doesn't pull it off quite well. So I would say the 5.4 Triton out of the 2006 F-150 is starting to sound like a diesel. I assume that is bad. Those are your cam phasers. I had a 2009 with a 5.4. Yeah, it is the cam phaser. So I had a 2009. That was the original Whitey. And my wife hated that I got rid of that truck. I should have just given it to her. But it was a extended cab 4x4 with a 5.4 and 410 gears from the factory, and it's one of those things where I drove that truck, it rattled its ass off. I'd go into like a drive-through and it sounded like an old diesel. It's just what they do. It's not normal for any vehicle to sound like that, but it's normal for that vehicle like that. Asking, does she need to have it looked at ASAP? I'm assuming this thing's got like maybe 140, 150,000 miles on it. Probably a good time to get new cam phasers put in, but they're going to start flaking out sometime in about the next 60,000, 70,000 miles. So if you're going to keep it, yeah, go ahead and get them swapped out. As long as you do that, you'll just keep changing the oil, and also while they're at it, have the chain tensioners replaced, and that will be it. It's not going to be cheap, but like I say, the engine will run indefinitely if you take care of it in that respect. Now, here's the problem. You have a 2006. The 2006 utilized a two-piece spark plug that was about that long. Like it was just annoyingly, stupidly long. Um, get while it's there, have those, yeah, they do break. Have the plugs replaced while it's there. She had those replaced. Okay, then you're in good shape. That's it. I mean, it's a flex fuel truck, so there's that. Run a couple of tanks of premium through it, and as long as it's running good, don't worry about it. But all that being said, it's a great truck. Like I said, I really like mine a lot. I should never have sold that truck. But the transmission also blew up. So there's that. What else is going on? No, that's stepside F-150. Nice. Damn, stepside F-150 with that engine would make it a very rare truck, believe it or not. Brake Stuff saying I had an '08 work truck with a 5.4. It drove really nice. I put an Edge Evolution programmer and it turned up the shift firmness and felt like I had a shift kit, but I got rid of it at 54,000. Yeah, I got rid of mine at, I had 160,000 and had a high, whose chip was it? Anyway, had it programmed, and this is a good truck. I liked it. Ran good. Had an open diff though from the, well, I think a lot of Fords have open diffs. I just threw it in 4-wheel drive for rain traction. Used to have a lot of fun with that thing. Didn't get very good gas mileage though. Not that it matters, but yeah, guys, seriously, what I've been up to is mainly motorcycle stuff. Trying to get some more stuff done to the Katana. The Z1's gone, and I know that there's some folks that have been going, "Oh, get rid of it." I didn't think that I would, and but I took it out. What was it? I took it out about 3 weeks ago, and it was real apparent it was going to need a lot more work to really make it the bike that I wanted. And here's the twist: as much as I love that bike, and I still do, and I'll stand by everything I've ever said about that bike, Plenty Fast does everything well enough. It's okay, but everything is okay about that bike except the looks. The looks are what draw you in, but the riding experience is it's okay. But it's not even impressive for a middleweight from the factory. And so with everything that I did to that bike, it put it right in the middle of a middleweight category. And I just wanted something with a little bit more punch, something that was going to be a little bit smoother. Also, that engine is a little bit buzzy, even at lower RPM. And so I wanted something that was smoother, more powerful, and I really wanted the 80s aesthetic of the Katana. I had no idea the Katana existed when I bought the Z1. Here, at least in the United States anyway, it was never really marketed. And so, and it's a screw up on Suzuki's part. It should have had clip-ons. It should have been I get what kind of bike it is, but it really needed to have clip-ons, and it doesn't have clip-ons. In fact, it had a sport touring bar that had you sitting so upright on the bike that your distance from like your abdomen to the bars was really close. It felt cartoonish really to ride. So, Anyway, the bike that I bought is a brand new bike. In fact, it doesn't even have enough miles on it to kick it out of demo status. It's got less than 300 miles on it. I think demo status is 500. So anyway, brand new bike is just 4 years old. And so previous owner didn't do anything with it. So there's a lot that I've got to do, maintenance items and all this other stuff that I've got to do to kind of kill some of the garage rot. The tires have got to be, I've got to run those tires. I've got to get that thing over on its side. But in the meantime, like I say, the bike runs fine. I've buzzed it up to some pretty interesting speeds already. Still under braking though, so I can't really hammer on it. But I will seat the rings, if you know what I mean. And, you know, it's stable enough. It'll give a little bit of a wiggle in fourth gear if you're really twisting the screws on it. But a lot of that's going to change with the different ergonomics, with the different bars and all of that. So I do need to adjust the suspension. It needs a little bit more preload in the rear. But other than that, like I say, bike's great. Absolutely dig it. It's still going to take some getting used to, though, but I do like it. I do also like the fact that it's still an 80s throwback. It's still a retro bike, but it's doing it with a real modern flair to it. It's not trying to be overly retro the way that the Kawasaki did. Not that that's a bad thing. It's a great thing. It looks amazing. It's a gorgeous thing to look at. But I like that the Katana is more of a modern take on the retro theme. Plus, the Darth Vader helmet look of the thing even sets it better for me still. So, let me see what you guys are up to, and we'll dive back into the middle of it. Braxo saying, was just out riding my ZRX 12 and took my buddy's brand new Eliminator for a spin. He wants to get a Z900 RS now. It's too slow for him already. Yeah, Eliminator probably would be. Z900 RS is a fun bike. You'll never hear me say anything negative about it. Matter of fact, somehow or another, I ended up with an extra 16-tooth front sprocket. I highly suggest that modification. And then get the bike tuned. Don't worry about putting exhaust on it. Just get it de-restricted. Put a 16-tooth front sprocket on it. If you really want to make big boy power with it, and I say big boy, it's a real relative term with that bike, Brock Street Meg exhaust or a Yoshi header with a stock can is a good look on that bike. Also makes good power. Hindle makes the Brock's exhaust, so if you wanted to run a Hindle, it'd be the same performance envelope thing. Brock's makes the most outright power. But again, I'm going to put a tune on it, and whatever you decide to do, let it rip. Also, I would suggest putting the different runners in the airbox. If you're going to do anything, do those mods, and you're good. Oh yeah, put the air filter in it and do the airbox mod. Basically, do everything I did to my bike, and you will be adequately satisfied with it. When it comes to power, it's not going to wow you. It's fast. Here's the freaking funny thing about that bike. That bike is as fast as my Katana with everything I did to the Kawasaki. It's would be punchier than my Katana. A lot of that had to do with the tune and the throttle that I put on it. But that being said, up until about 9,000 RPM, and then the conversation ends in favor of the Katana. And that's a bone stock with all that extra weight of the rear thing, that shovel sitting behind it, all that stuff, all of it. That's the difference between the two. The Katana will just flat out, I mean, it won't even be a very polite conversation especially after about 9,500 RPM, even with everything done to the 948, the 1000cc bike's just a completely different animal. Higher compression, much larger throttle bodies, much higher flowing heads, the whole bit. It's just better in general. So, um, but you don't buy the Z900 RS for outright power. At least you shouldn't. That's not that bike's forte. It's a great looking bike, but it's got to have some work done to it for it to really be fun to ride. There's a killer little motorcycle hiding underneath all of those nannies. I would highly suggest getting after that. Um, oh, cool. Skids just picked up a CX5. Very cool. Good little car. Break Stuff's asking, did I see Brock Davidson's video where he hopped up a 2020 Katana? I have not seen it. Um, but I've seen similar bikes to it. So the GSX S family of motorcycles, which is the GSX, well, you have the A, the F, and the FA. The A is the one that you would just know to look at. It looks like a GSX X bike. The F is a faired version of that bike, but with different handlebars. Has the higher, just why did you put these on this motorcycle handlebars on it? And the Katana is in essence the F. Well, it's the FA, and it's set up just like the F. But yeah, that you can get some pretty good power bikes if you decided you just wanted to throw the kitchen sink at it. With the way that it's cammed, if you put full exhaust, tune, filter, remove the restrictor, which I've already done to mine, you can get it. I think Orange Crushes would put down like 155, somewhere in that range to the rear tire. That's not a bad place to be. You can 155 is hard to use. It's tough to use all of it through sweepers and on the back half of sweepers. That's where you can have a lot of fun with about 140 to 160 horsepower, maybe 165. You can have fun with that amount of power on the street, especially when you're coming through the apex of a corner. You're not going outside your lane. Everything's clear, and you can really crack open the throttle and just power through it like a fourth or fifth gear rip. That's where that level of horsepower becomes fun, because anything less than that, and you're well in the power handling capability of, like, say, a set of S23s or Rosso 4s or something like that. A good street tire can easily manage lower power figures. A good street tire will start to, it'll feel the burn, so to speak, with, around 140, 150 horsepower out to, say, 165. Anything past that, things get a little bit spooky with the normal street tire that you would be running, and you're going to start moving more into a more track-oriented tire. The only downside to that is that you really need to, how do I put this? You have to go fast on those types of tires for them to perform properly. If you try to go slower or be more coy with your riding with those types of tires, what will end up happening is that they don't get up to temperature hot enough. And that's when you can have a bad day. It's why I love the super sticky. Oh, they wear out too fast. Great. That's what I'm trying to do. But I will get out there and I will rip on a set of S22s, S23s, Rosso 3, Rosso 4s are all really good. But there's a limit to you're only limited by the tire that you can run when it comes to any kind of racing, motorcycle, car, it doesn't matter. But in this case, for the street, a super sport tire that will get to temp quick and will stay really sticky and will be able to manage that level of power, that's really what you're looking for. Skids is in. Hello. See, I was on edge. Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that. So yeah, Skids, the Aprilia is really good. In fact, the Aprilia was on the short list of bikes for me to get. The Aprilia Tuono Factory, the gold one, the red, black, and gold one. That was on the short list. Matter of fact, that same seating position, the bar, all that is going to be very similar to the way the Katana is going to end up. So, yeah, really good bike. Some guys, there's some complaints about some reliability with some components on that bike. I don't buy into that. I think the squeaky wheels just make more noise. I wouldn't hesitate at all to get one of those. I just got such a good deal on the bike that I got, and it's a brand new bike. So, I mean, I went for it. DM is in. What's up, man? Good evening, chat friends. You know you're a badass when Street you've been shot in the ear and you say you're going to the MMA fight. Hell yes. So that was a trip when he's like, what the hell? And yeah, he's gonna go to the fight tonight. I think that's awesome. Oh, brake stuff. Yeah, the K5. Yeah, the K5 1000 mil is like a more modern 1100 TSCC bulletproof powerhouse, bro. Look, that's what put me over the edge for the Katana. There's a few things. One, the first thing was the aesthetic. I knew that I could make the bike what I wanted it to look like, and I was going to make the bike that I thought was the most kick-ass when I was a kid, which was, the Katana, the early 80s, that whole vibe of, the way the plastic was and the square headlight. I loved that. So that's what I went for with this bike. Now, that being said, that's all great for the aesthetic, but it was the chassis, the swing arm, the engine. That's why I bought the bike. The K5, for you guys that may not know bikes, the 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9 Suzuki GSXR 1000 engine is, you can't, for a motorcycle guy, it's like you have to own one. If you're ever going to own an inline 4 motor bike, that's the one that you want. It's a longer stroke than the rest of the field, but that didn't ever hurt it for RPM or making power or anything like that. It would just spin to the same RPM and just had higher piston speed. Killer flowing heads though. Great tip-in throttle response. This is the type of engine that is like it's this level of durability. It's just nuts how good that engine is. And so, I mean, it's been drag raced, road raced, street raced, roll raced, turboed, nitrous, turbo and nitrous, stroker, the whole bit has been done to K5 engines in an attempt to have the fastest thing on the planet. So when it comes to bikes, and they're just that good. And that's what this bike's got. It's got a K5 GSXR 1000 mil, slightly revised cam profiles. That's it. And so when you put a tune on the bike, if you put tune and exhaust on it, it will actually eclipse what the GSXR 1000 would put down in stock form back in the day. Not a bad place to be. Not a bad place to be at all. Oh, Trump's not going to the fight? I guarantee he's being advised not to. The Duke Street Fighter V4, really good looking bike. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Unfortunately, a couple people lost their, well, one of the people in the crowd lost their lives. So that sucks. So I'm saying 4 pistons on a bike means business. It does when you start getting up there in displacement. Oh, that's another thing too. Talking about like what's the difference between the bikes. The Z900 RS is okay. I said it in a video before that it's a 750 masquerading as a 950. A lot of what I mean by that is it makes 750 power, but it's in a 950 cc displacement. It's just, it doesn't have the RPM to go along with it. But it's got what I would consider to be 750 cc heads. They're small ports. It's got 750 cc style throttle bodies. They're just small. It's got a low compression ratio, which is a real problem for making power, especially for something that you want to spin fast. It's overall a really good bike though. And that's the thing, is that it sucks that it's so good, but yet it's still like not good enough in a way for a lot of guys. And so one of the things that I noticed in my inbox for the Z900 RS content was guys were finding wrecked Z900s, not the RS, but the naked sport bike that it's based off of. And that engine makes about 20 more horsepower than the Z900 RS. And as long as you're swapping computers and everything else over, I think it's not that big of a deal to do the swap. It's just the money if you want to do it. And these guys are going, yeah, it's great. I'm making, I'm making, 130 horsepower to the rear wheel. And it's like, guys, 130 is a GSXR 750. I know because I had one. It was my track bike. But 130, 135 on the high end, that's Gixxer 750 world with a tune and exhaust. You can't brag about making 750cc. Now, that being said, here it is. I'm one to talk, right? I mean, my bike with a tune and exhaust and everything else, that's, 100 and say 50, 155, depending on the dyno. And from the factory, it's like 140 for the 2020s because it's got bigger cams in it. The newer bikes are about 5 horsepower down. So it's 140. Well, that's more than. And this is a bike that's not even tuned for top end power. So you kind of get your cake and eat it too with the GSXS family of bikes. You can have the power, you can have the torque, you can have the durability, you just don't have to rev it to 13,000 RPM. Skid saying the K5 is the early 2000s king of inline fours. Oh, yeah. So we used to use the guys that ran point for us with the Vipers, the Supras, the Vets. When the LS stuff really started hitting hard, you had 383 stroker cars with superchargers and nitrous. Anyway, when we would go out to do the roll racing, the guys that were tail gunning and the guys that were running point were all riding motorcycles. And so you had Gixxer 1000. Oh, and they were also, you'd pick a race with them or whatever. It's always a lot of fun. But those guys are always along for the ride. And I had a RC51, which was not a very good, I was good for running point, but I couldn't tail gun roll races with it. It just wasn't fast enough. But I could run point, and you just, mic back. Yep, you're clear, clear, clear. Boys would hit it. That was usually when one of my cars was up, I would run point with one of the bikes. And one of the bikes that I ended up running along with was a lot of the guys had GSXR 1000s. And they were all fast. They were all put together well, and they would absolutely hurt feelings with those bikes. Yeah, somebody did build that Viper engine car. Gary's asking, would I buy a 24 Ram 1500? Probably not. The reason why, Gary, is because in 24 you can only get the 5.7 with the e-torque. I am not a fan of the e-torque. I had a 22 and I found that, man, look, I'll spit to you like this, bro. The e-torque thing, it doesn't do anything. that I can tell. It doesn't help anything. I've tried to figure out what exactly it does. Doesn't help with acceleration. All it is there to do is be a start stop mechanism, and that's it. It helps get the thing rolling as it is giving it start stop. There's some push there, but it's oh god, it puts it like this. I cannot believe I'm even going to say this. If that truck didn't have e-torque, I'd probably still have it. Let's see. Team said, apparently I'm fighting my swipe feature on my phone tonight and misspelling everything. You're good, bro. Break stuff. Oh, saying I went and looked at a new Katana silver one, brand new at a dealership back in 22. They were $9,000, brand new. I seriously thought about picking it up, but I'm still after an 83 Katana. Yep. Yeah, what's funny about the Katanas for a hot minute after, so 2020, they were hot. They were a pretty hot commodity. Now you can't get one unless you specifically special order that bike. That's the only way you can get a Katana now. And it's kind of crazy, right? So, when I'm done with mine, it's going to be a very cherry bike. It's going to be exactly what I wanted and what I feel like that bike, how that bike should have come from the factory. But it's a cool bike, but it's the pedigree that it comes to the table with is what I like the most. But of all the bikes that they released, the GSX-S and the GSX-SF, I'm okay with them having straight bars. I think that the Naked Street Fighter vibe is really good. I think that the 2020 bikes are the better looking of the between the older, recently older, and then the newer look bikes. I think the older bike looks better. It's more flowy, more rounded. I just think it's a prettier design. I like that they've got bigger cams for the older bikes. They do legit make about 5 more horsepower across the board. But with all that being said, it's still the same engine. It's still the same everything. They're still amazing bikes. And, but man, nothing really compares to the old school Iron. I do like riding older motorcycles a lot. It's one of the big reasons why I bought my Bonneville. I don't care. You can get used to stuff that's fast. It doesn't matter. When you get on a Bonneville, everything is completely different. You get on a T-Bird, everything is totally different. But my Bonnie, that's a different story. I like riding that bike a lot. Plus, I like picking on other motorcycles with it. Skids, Jixer, bro. No. No. Still me. That K5 isn't. That's another thing about the K5. Boy, howdy. Find me say whatever you want about the cross plane in the R1. Okay, it sounds unique, but dude, when you're talking about inlines, dude, nothing touches the K5. They've got a deep sound to it. They're so good. 5-valve R1 was pretty sick. Summer's saying, hey B, why is it that some bikes can be similar to V8, sound similar to V8 engines, but 46 cylinders less, or 4 to 6 cylinders? It depends on the layout of the bike. V twins will sound a lot like them because they have very similar firing orders, so it's something that your ear picks up on. The cross plane in the R1 will give kind of that same vibe too, because it fires every 90. It's fire, 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 as opposed to fire, 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 fire. So it's a thumper firing order instead of a screamer firing order. That's one of the reasons why. An R1 at certain RPMs does sound like a V8. It's pretty cool to pick up on. X is in. What's up, man? Yeah, and yeah, the VFRs did a good V8 sound. Any of the V engines will have kind of that vibe to them. Oh yeah, it's yeah, newer isn't always better. That's for sure. We're learning that with Dodge. They can't make cars with less than 8 cylinders sound like that. It's just think of it like a musical instrument. It's like why doesn't a saxophone sound like a French horn? It's because there's different stuff going on internally. So it's all in the firing order though, and it's the cadence that you're getting the sound coming out of the pipes at a specific RPM. Some V6s can sound like V8s. A 60-degree V6, which is a tight V6, actually can sound a lot like a V8 at certain RPM. The 4.3 liter V8 that was in the Chevys at lower RPM, very low RPM, can sound a little bit like a V8 also. That's actually a V8 with just 2 cylinders lopped off. But at some point, it's because the firing order, you're going to get that slightly higher pitched noise that comes out of those things. And then you get into the travesty of the Viper soundtrack. Um, Breaks up saying his old SCX actually had a V8-ish rumble going down the highway. Yep. That's how the anything with a 270-degree firing order will do that too. Parallel twin or a 90-degree V twin. It's the same firing order. Will have a bit of a more of a V8 sound. And of course, Harley Davidson's anything with a real tight a tight V, tight angle. I almost said lobe separation angle. I'm so used to saying that. Will also have a kind of a V80 rumble to it. Jonathan Zan, hey there, bro. What's up? Yeah, the skids. The 4.3 sounds good. 4.3 was a good engine. Sovereign's checking in. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with most of this whole the whole motorcycling thing for me. I mean, I love I'll always be a sport bike guy at heart, which is kind of why I like my Bonneville so much, because it was the sport bike of its era. My Daytona, that bike's always going to have a real soft spot in my heart because of my dad. But the bike that I'm still surprised that I warmed up to so quickly is my Thunderbird. I didn't think that I would really be all into that bike. And I find myself just wanting to take it for a cruise. It's a neat cruiser. Just so happens to have a lot of torque available all the time. One thing I will admit to with that bike in particular, a lot of guys, it's kind of funny depending on your riding style, what it is that you're into, what it is that you like, what it is that you find yourself, what are you drawn to? And if you're into sport bikes, you always end up riding everything that you end up riding like a sport bike, which means you're grinding pegs on cruisers and, hanging off of Bonnevilles and stuff like that, like I do. But I will say that the more I've pushed and the more I've ridden that T-Bird, the more fun it's become. So at least there's that, right? I've got the fun factor. Anyway, I've had a lot more fun with these bikes than I ever thought I would, and it's been a lot more fun. I'll put it like this: the bikes have been a lot more fun than the cars. And I hate to say it like that, but it has been. And again, a lot of this has to do with the fact that I always tie this back to Mopar stuff somehow or another. It's that Mopar just doesn't have. They don't get it, and again, they just don't get it. They don't understand the buying public's position in all of this. They don't understand their buying demographic. And this is another key thing here. The newer car, I am worried about its long-term viability in the marketplace. And the reason why I say that is because it is not attractive to female buyers. Guys, in this day and age, you have to have a vehicle that's attractive to female buyers. The Mustang knocks it out of the park in this respect. A chick can get behind the, or a chick-sized dude, for that matter, can get behind the wheel of a Mustang and immediately feel comfortable. You can sit more upright in it. You can sit more laid down in it. There's a lot of adjustability. It's not as big of a car. There's a lot of that going on with other cars that Dodge, I don't think, is getting right with theirs. And they still push in a weird way for cars like it's like over dudified, and there's not any cross pollination with the fairer sex here. And I'll put it to you like this. So you say, man, that's kind of a weird thing to think about. It's one of the things that killed the Viper. For you guys that don't know, I had a long, this is years ago, a number of years ago, actually, with the marketing team and with Dodge at the time. And the guy that I was talking to was one of the guys that was more or less not head of marketing, but he was kind of in the upper tier. I'll put it to you that way. Anyway, we got to talking about cars. There was a white Viper that they had it was Mecum. And he goes, he even said, you want to buy it? I'll sell you 86 grand. You can have it. And I should have bought the damn thing. And I said, nah, I've just ordered this Challenger, and I'm not, I've had Vipers though. That's what spurred the conversation on it. I've had 3 of them. He goes, see, that's one of the problems. He goes, Viper is such a weird property because it's so focused. And it doesn't, the only thing that it brings to the table is the aesthetic. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, well, no, that's not exactly true. I mean, I've raced them. I've road raced them. I've drag raced them. I've roll raced them. I mean, he goes, no, you're not understanding. It looks great. It's plenty fast, but it doesn't appeal to women. It doesn't have an automatic transmission, and it sounds like shit. And this is what he is saying about their own vehicle. He goes, you put that car in focus groups, it scores low with chicks, high with guys. Nobody can stand the way the thing sounds. They don't understand how an engine with more cylinders than a V8 can sound more like a V6. And it never, the way he was describing it to me was they didn't have, the car, the property of Viper was becoming less, it was wearing out its welcome, so to speak. So anyway, I feel like that's what's going to happen pretty quickly with the Charger. I don't think that it's going to have the universal appeal. I think that this, the EV aspect of this, by the way, fun fact, Hurricane Beryl wiped out electricity for a lot of Southeast Texas. Haven't seen too many Teslas on the road. Haven't seen any other EVs other than Teslas on the road, by the way. Is coincidence? I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, getting back to it, I don't know how well this new Charger is going to do in focus groups. And once you start failing with the female side of the buying public, that's when you know you don't have a winner, period. Let me tell you vehicles that do well with females. Mustang does really well with females. F-150, believe it or not, does very well with females. Camaro did okay, but not nearly as well as Mustang did with females, and you can see that reflected in the sales figures. You had a lot of guys buying Dodge products, and that was a bit of a bummer when it came to the Challengers and the Chargers, although chicks do kind of dig Durangos. So it's kind of one of those things, guys. If this car doesn't pick up on a more universal buying demographic, it's going to kind of, I have a feeling it's going to go, unfortunately. But we shall see. Sovereign, the Hornets for the Bud Light Bar Hopper crowd. I can't get my mind over. I'm sorry, man. I have tried and I want to like the Hornet. Here's the problem with the Hornet. The Hornet is going to be for a lot of people a bit of a guilty pleasure if they can score one as a rental. Because they've got a nice interior. If Dodge does anything well and nothing else, it's interiors. They always seem to nail an interior aesthetic. So this is no different. Hornet's got a great interior, superb. But here's the thing. Nobody is going to buy the thing. Look, even if it's it thing could be just the best, fastest, awesomest, and all this other stuff. It can walk a scat pack from a dig like no other. Okay. Whoop-de-doo. That's not why you buy these things. And I get it, but trust, there's nobody out there trolling scat packs with a Hornet. Even if you figured out a way to get a GLH style package into that car, it's not going to get marketed properly anyway. This last, what the frick ever that was, commercial with the kit, torque and what the hell was that? This is, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. Anyway, I find it, like I say, I find it a little bit annoying, but it's actually, as a car, it's not bad. If you get one as a rental, it's a big time score. It's a lot of fun in that respect. It'll be a little bit of a guilty pleasure for you, but I mean, I don't think anybody would be taking one home permanently. Not at the rate that you would, or that Dodge would hope that you would. Beef Easy and said, "Hey, Professor, how you doing? Doing well, buddy. We're doing well too. How any thought on coatings on Heathers? Trying to price out a cost for Cook's long tubes for my 5.7. They have coatings as an option. Yeah. Like the coatings, they do help with underhood heat, which I do like. But more than anything else, I like the coating more as a protectant. It protects the header more. So whether it does or doesn't significantly reduce underhood heat, I wouldn't use that as a barometer. It's just it protects it better. And as somebody who had seen sets of headers over and over and over and over and over again, the coated ones always were perfectly reusable and were fine. And in some cases, the stainless stuff, depending on where you got them in the manufacturer, just was okay. So I would say get them coated. Challenge, yes. Eric is in. What's up, man? Hope you're doing good, buddy. Sorry, I'll take one of those aggressive monsters any day. Nothing like seeing those quad halos approaching in your rear view. True that. Eric saying the new Dodge Hornet SUVs are having major problems. I am not surprised. They got to sell them, though. The torque, yeah. Got some folks hanging out with Eric. I like to see it. But yeah, bummer about President Trump. Well, great that he's, just grazed an ear. So great for that. Sorry to hear that one of the bystanders got hit. That's really sad. But guys, with that, we're coming up on an hour. I've got to check out of here. But as always, excellent hanging out with you guys. I'll stay on for just a minute if you guys have any questions specifically. But with that, yeah, already an hour. Can you believe it? With that, I'm going to wrap it up. I will be bringing you guys some more updates with the Katana. I've got the Sato, however you say it, clip-ons coming. Just posted up the video about the T-Rex tail tidy, which was a real interesting install for a tail tidy. Not that it was hard or anything, but what that bike comes with is obnoxious, that shovel-looking thing. So yeah, 6 pounds off the back of the bike already. That's a good thing. But with that, I also have. I need to just go ahead and order a quick throttle for it. I like the aesthetic of the quick throttle more. Um, I don't know. We'll see about that. Anyway, with that, guys, now it's a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Take care.